Hi, it's Scott, ROCKFILE, back with another podcast review. Let's talk about the 2025 flop, In the Lost Lands. This is a Paul W.S. Anderson movie based on a short story by George R.R. Martin and starring his wife, Mila Jovovich. At a $55 million budget, only grossed $6.1 million so far. Is available on home video, only on Blu-ray and DVD in the United States, but Studio Canal did put it out on 4K in Europe, and you can import it or get it pretty cheap, actually. The movie got terrible reviews. It's 24% on Rotten Tomatoes, and you're probably wondering, why did I watch it? Well, liking Dave Bautista and Mia Jovovich and a lot of Paul W.S. Anderson's movies, I know that they're not critically acclaimed, but I usually have fun with them. Everything from Soldier to, well, Event Horizon is one of my favorite movies of all time. But even his worst Resident Evil movies are entertaining from beginning to end. They're not boring. They're just, they're just not great. They're just what they are. They're popcorn fodder. Most of his movies are that way, and I don't have a problem with that. These kind of movies have to exist. Why this one got slammed so much, I have no idea. But this has happened before, and we'll talk about that. I will try to dance around spoilers, but you have a basic story. The producer, Constantine Warner, bought the rights to 3 of George R.R. Martin's short stories, all featuring these 2 main characters. They were going to make a giant movie or a trilogy, and so far they only got the 1 movie made, and since it didn't do well, that's probably the end of that. The biggest thing you need to going into this movie is it's a fantasy movie, like a George R.R. Martin, but it's a future fantasy kind of thing, dystopian future. It's very stylized. Movies like Sin City, or remember that movie Priest, where everything looks almost like a comic book or just looks artistic more than real. This is one of those movies. It is absolutely gorgeous from beginning to end. One of the reviewers on Rotten Tomatoes called it an eyesore. I guess if you're not into it, this is one of the main reasons that I got the 4K, the European 4K, because there's a lot of dark. There are dark scenes. This is dealing with witches and werewolves and fantasy in a future, a post-apocalyptic world. Dark. A lot of dark scenes, a lot of fire, things like that. But they've also desaturated a lot of the scenes. It'll go from like a sepia tone to kind of a gray tone. They have created a look for this world, like it or hate it. I mean, obviously there are critics out there who thought, they couldn't get past it. But if you knew that going in, it's like Sin City. They're going to make the whole thing look like a comic book. That's the way it's going to be. If you don't like that style, don't go see the movie. Well, this kind of looks like a comic book in a weird way. It has every plot twist and thing that a George R.R. Martin story has in it. People saying one thing, doing another. All of a sudden, a sudden death changes the whole game, that kind of thing. It's very much that in an hour and 40 minutes. You've got Grey Alice. The queen comes to her because, the king's not doing so well, and she wants a power. She wants to be able to shapeshift. So she asks the witch to go, please go get this power for me and I will pay you, and I would like that power. Well, the witch doesn't turn anybody down, and there's more things that go on. But anyway, that leads to her meeting Dave Bautista's character, Boyce, and they go on an adventure in the Lost Lands. The Lost Lands are pretty much the rest of humanity after whatever post-apocalyptic thing happened years ago, are all now gathered in one city that's ruled over by an oppressive church-type organization. Well, it's called the church, but it's not like any one we have today. They're hanging people and doing horrible things. So they're kind of the bad guys, and they don't want what the witch may do, Grey Alice and Dave Bautista's character Boyce, whatever they may get in the Lost Lands, they don't want that to change how things are going in the city, right? So they try and kill them, but it turns out that, Grey Alice really is a witch. It's not a fake thing. She can float off the ground and make things happen and control people's minds and things like that. And Dave Bautista is, he's called a hunter, but yeah, he's a badass. So anyway, there's some pretty decent violence. There's some great fight scenes in the film. I thought the cinematography was good, especially dealing with a lot of the enemies they fight are computer generated. But it's really good. I mean, they spent some money on the effects that required computer generated stuff. And I'm sure a lot of the scenes and the backgrounds and all that were generated too. It's not very often in the film where they look like they're on a big area, if that makes any sense. That's not computer generated or a special effect, but it's done so well, you really can't tell what's what. it looks like the whole thing takes place in this very strange, very stylized looking world. Dave Bautista's doing great. He opens and closes the movie basically saying, I'm going to tell you a story, and it goes into that. You've got a map that pops up to show where they are in the journey. This was probably be in the front of the short story book or whatever that this came from, and it does feel like a George R.R. Martin story. You've got several set pieces. You've got a long journey over the wastelands and all the stuff that comes along with that, but it's all done very stylized. And because there is more plot than one of those type of movies, because it's based on a George R.R. Martin, it's more interesting because it will cut back to what's going on in the city, and there's all these machinations going on back in the city. So it's not just following the witch and the badass through the desert. It does jump around for some different things in the story. And in the end, it wraps up like this would be the beginning of a franchise. I think it would be great. The ending feels a little bit rushed too. They kind of just wrap everything up in a couple of seconds in a montage and boom, we're done and here we go. And I thought, wow, if they make another one, I'd be into that, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Negatives are, it's very stylized. It looks almost like a cartoon. It's very otherworldly. Everything looks like it was created in a video game or not. Or maybe this is just another movie that just came out in 4K that I would also say that is similar is Sky Captain in the World of Tomorrow, which is a pretty good movie, but it didn't hit because everybody said it doesn't look real. Well, they're not going for real. They're going for a stylized appearance. And I got to say, in 4K, it was a pretty high bit rate with HDR10 loaded and Dolby Atmos. It was a really good 4K. Things like torches and stuff not only cast light, but they cast kind of a stretched halo effect. It's not exactly a lens flare like Star Trek movies or anything like that, but it's very interesting and it's pretty. I mean, I like the gothic look of everything. They show a city or a building from outside, and the torches around, they may be electric or something like that, but they still have this weird, eerie kind of glow to them. And the whole movie looks like that, kind of a soft focus and kind of a fantasy realm. But it's a George R.R. Martin story, post-apocalyptic. Say what you will about Paul W.S. Anderson, but he did exactly probably what was on the page. I don't know. I haven't read the script, but he took the movie before it came out to George R.R. Martin and screened it for him. George R.R. Martin said this was his favorite version of this story, the best telling of this story. So what does that say? I thought Bautista was really good. Mia Jovovich is always fine in her movies, and she was actually different in this one. And the side characters that nobody else major. One of the actress that I only recognize, and I don't know her name, Arlie Jover. She is a Spanish actress who we remember from the original Blade movie. She's been in a lot of things since, but this would be a similar. She is pretty much an assassin for the church, and she tortures and kills people, and she's not a real nice person. And anyway, I won't get into spoilers. I've told you basically what happens in the first 20 minutes. There's some set pieces. There's some great fight scenes, some hand-to-hand combat, some weapons combat, some magic combat. And it all wraps up with an interesting plot twist. There's several twists in it, actually, as the story goes. But there's a big twist at the end, and then it kind of goes in a different direction. And then the credits roll, and you're like, I'd like to kind of follow that direction. So maybe they can do a graphic novel. Maybe they can do a TV series. The German guy who owns the rights also owns rights to a couple other stories. If they could bring the two stars back and keep this line going, maybe. So I picked it up from Atomic Movie Store. If you haven't bought from Kyle yet, I've talked to Kyle several times now. I've placed several orders in the last 6 months. It's become my favorite place to get movies from overseas because he's not charging, well, he doesn't charge any shipping if your order is over $50. This 4K was about $30. It's Studio Canal. It's British. It only comes with the 4K, and there's no extras on it. But for $30, that's what it would have cost here. I was in my Walmart today, and they had the movie on DVD and Blu-ray, but no 4Ks. No 4Ks have been released in the United States. It looks great, sounds great, and was a fun hour and 40 minutes. Sure, I've already forgotten a few things about it, but it is something I would rewatch. Like I'd rewatch a Resident Evil movie or that Kurt Russell movie Soldier that Paul W.S. Anderson directed. It's fine in that genre of movies. If you're looking for a AAA, something better than Lord of the Rings, you're not going to get that, but that's not what they set out to do. I think the movie hits all the notes it's supposed to. It's not going to be your favorite thing if you didn't like things like Sin City or Priest or Sky Captain. Again, it's very, very stylized, very much looking like a video game or a comic book, but that's what they were going for. And you can't fault it for that. You could just say you didn't like it, but, not because they did it, because that's what they planned to do. It's not like this is cheap and $55 million budget. And it's all up on the screen. There's not a whole lot of actors in this. There's a lot of scene extensions and crowd extensions and things like that. But it all comes together in a cohesive... there were Netflix reviews calling it incomprehensible. I don't know. I think it was pretty simple to follow what was going on. And maybe they just didn't see the twist coming, and that's why they want to call it incomprehensible. I don't know. One of the biggest flops of the year. I don't think it deserves that. I've watched a lot worse lately. So anyway, check out In the Lost Lands if you feel like it. I know you can stream it right now, and it's available on Blu-ray in the United States, 4K in the UK, and other countries. Scott, I'm ROCKFILE. And do check out Kyle with the Atomic Movie Store. He's got great prices and free shipping, and he raps like it's a gift from the heavens. Amazing. Anyway, like, share, and subscribe. It's very important, and have a spectacular day.